Hello, Chameleon Academy. I am going to go over the 5 top things that kill Jackson's chameleons. This comes from decades of breeding Jackson's chameleons and talking to breeders around the world, and we see some patterns. And so I invite you to learn from our mistakes and our experience so you can have a long, happy life with your Jackson's chameleon. The first killer of Jackson's chameleons is high temperatures. Yes, our Jackson's chameleons come from a little bit high up on the mountain, and so they're looking for cooler temperatures, mid 70s. You will notice that when your Jackson's chameleons get into the 80s, they start to get heat stressed. You'll start to see them getting lighter colors. They'll start to gape. They'll start to sit in mouth breathe. They're trying to cool themselves off. Now, I specifically mention this because although most of us can identify a chameleon that's under heat stress, the problem with Jackson's chameleons is actually that range under the heat stress, between the somewhere in the mid 80s. If you have ambient temperatures in the mid 80s, your chameleon is going to be physically stressed. And the reason why this is something we have to talk about is because Jackson's chameleons seem to be a lot more sensitive towards heat stress and that minor heat stress. So what happens is if they're in this constant low-grade heat stress, their immune system weakens. And when they're in this low-grade heat stress for a week or 2 or a month, that's when they start to get more of these temporal gland infections, which could be deadly for Jackson's chameleon. So you will note that there's going to be a common theme running through these top 5 things that kill Jackson's chameleon. And what it is the accumulation of things that cause low-grade constant stress. If there's one thing you learn in chameleon husbandry that is going to improve the lives of every chameleon you come in contact with, it's to recognize the effects of low-grade stress and to avoid giving that to your chameleon. And so we're going to go on to the next low-grade stress, which is cohabitation stress. The rule is 1 chameleon per cage. The problem is that when you put 2 chameleons together, they will have a dominance battle. One will win the dominance battle, the other will lose the dominance battle. If they're in the same cage, then the loser cannot get away from the bush and let the winner know that he's won. And so the winner is stressed, always trying to exert its dominance, and the loser is stressed because the loser's trying to get away but can't. And so there will be a number of passive-aggressive things that constantly go on day after day. This produces a low-grade stress, which is going to eat away at the immune system of both of them, but mostly the submissive one that is lost. Now, many keepers are fooled by the gentle nature of the Jackson's chameleon. They don't see these stress things going on. And so they think that their chameleons are doing fine because they look at the cage, they don't see any fighting, they don't see any signs of stress. But the fact is, it's happening. And these keepers will have a sickness come 6 months from now. It'll be mysterious. You have no idea where it came from. But I gotta tell you, those of us who have been doing Jackson's chameleons for so many decades, we know you keep chameleons together, especially Jackson's chameleons, and that's what you're going to get. So don't keep chameleons together. The third killer of Jackson's chameleons is no nighttime drop. If Jackson's chameleons don't get their nighttime drop into the 50s or low 60s, the body will start to get physically tired. They're not going to be able to have as deep a sleep as they need for optimal health. And so with this increasing exhaustion, you get a kind of a low-grade physical stress because the body can't get the sleep it needs. Once again, this builds over time. Giving a nighttime drop is one of the more challenging things for people to do because if their house doesn't go cold, it's kind of difficult to get a cage colder. Many of us have to actually put AC units in the window just so we can take care of our Jackson's chameleons. And that becomes really the only way to do it if you have warm nights. I know it's expensive. I know it's a lot of work, but if we want to keep Jackson's chameleons, that's the way we got to do it. Now, I also want to add that once you put an air conditioner in, you are now sucking moisture from the air. So you're going to have to be really careful about your humidity cycles. Just a note. The next thing is handling stress. If you've been around chameleons for any length of time, you know you've heard people say, don't hold your chameleons. They're not holding pets. They don't like it. And when you try to hold a veiled chameleon or a panther chameleon and they don't want you to hold them, oh, they let you know. They gape. They try to bite you. Yeah, there's no mistake there. The reason why this is significant enough for me to actually point it out on a Jackson's chameleon is because a Jackson's chameleon, generally speaking, I mean, they're all individuals, they all do their own thing, but generally speaking, a Jackson's chameleon won't attack you like that. They won't be defensive like that, where they'll try to bite you or gape at you or be threatening. And the problem is that the well-natured keepers who want their animals to love them misinterpret that as the Jackson's chameleons enjoying coming out, enjoying being held, enjoying being played with. And the fact is that you're stressing out your chameleon. It's just not showing it to you in the ways that you are expecting. So many of these keepers end up being so proud that their chameleon trusts them so much to actually fall asleep in their hand. Now, us experienced chameleon people know that, unfortunately, this is not a sign of trust in chameleon language. Yes, in dog language, in human language, falling asleep on your partner, that is a sign of trust. In chameleon language, that is a sign that they have given up on life. They're closing their eyes and they're ready to be eaten because they've given up hope. It is the most heartbreaking thing because the well-meaning keeper thinks that they have reached the pinnacle of relationship with their chameleon. And then we're in a situation where we have to let them know, I'm sorry, it's the complete opposite. You have driven your chameleon to the point where they're getting ready to die. And remember, with Jackson's chameleons, they're not going to give you the signs that you're expecting to be told, no, don't hold me. So this is something that you're going to have to know yourself without asking them. And finally, well, luckily this one isn't that it's going to kill your chameleon. It's just going to make them sick. And that is over-supplementation. There is something in our multivitamin supplements that causes an imbalance within Jackson's chameleons. And this most often comes out as a fluid color. It's called edema. And it's a fluid color around the neck of the chameleon. And we don't know exactly what in the supplements is causing that. We suspect it's going to be the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin D3. But whatever it is, the reason why we say oversupplementation causes it is because when we stop supplementing with the multivitamin, the edema goes away. So I'm hoping that we figure out exactly what's going on in the future, and I imagine one day we will. But for right now, be very careful with how you supplement your chameleon. For Jackson's chameleons, I recommend dusting with a multivitamin once a month. And look for one that has vitamin D3 in 10K IUs per pound or less. And usually the vitamin A is 100K IUs per pound or less. Just a note, you'll usually find that the vitamin A is 10 times the vitamin D3. That's just a traditional thing that a number of the supplements have gone with. Not all of them, but a number of them have. So in conclusion, those are your 5 things that are most likely to kill your Jackson's chameleon. You will notice that most of those have to deal with stress, whether emotional stress or physical stress. And to be a successful chameleon keeper, you need to get into the mindset of understanding that constant low-grade stress doesn't kill immediately. It builds on itself. And this is why it's so difficult for beginning chameleon keepers to acknowledge that it exists, is because they don't see it build day after day. But whether it's stress because they have a cage mate, or it's stress because it's a little bit too warm, or it's stress because they're taken out and constantly handled and played with, all of this adds together. And it may be that you having them with warm nights isn't going to be enough stress to kill them, but that, in addition to being in a cage with another chameleon, sets them over the edge. Most of the time, what kills a Jackson's chameleon is not one of these, but a combination of a couple of these. And so to successfully keep your Jackson's chameleon, be aware of all the different ways that they can be stressed and eliminate those from their life. And that's the way to have a Jackson's chameleon live a long, healthy life with you. This is Bill Strand signing off. I'll see you next time.